What is up, fellow Star Wars fans? Welcome to a brand new video on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Now today I'm very excited to get into all the new details, and I would call these major details because after the Disney investor event there was even more stuff that came out that gave us a very good idea of what to expect moving forward. So honestly, stick around for this whole video because with these new details that we learned, believe it or not, it gives us details that can make an actual physical battle between Vader and Kenobi work, and not just a dream sequence from the traumatic event that both characters faced at the end of Revenge of the Sith, like a lot of fans think that it could very well be. So I'm going to recap all the major details for those of you who don't know it. You may think you've heard some of it, but there may be some details that surprise you, and then I'll get into a loophole or two as to how it can actually work and not necessarily contradict Episode 4 canon. But anyway, getting right into this. As everyone knows by now, Kathleen Kennedy revealed that Obi-Wan Kenobi this series takes place a decade after the events of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And we've all probably heard by now that she, you know, quote unquote, she calls it the rematch of the century, and this led a lot of Star Wars fans to think, like, wait, what? Like, how can they actually have a physical rematch? When if you take into account Episode 4's script, it seems as though this is the first time they've met since Mustafar. Now, as I said, stay tuned because some of these details will probably surprise you in how it can actually work. Now, Deborah Chow, who will be directing the series, did say that this is quite a dark time that we're coming into with him. Just being a Jedi, it's not safe. There's Jedi hunters out there. Now, that detail very much so interested me because you could say the Jedi hunters are maybe some leftover clones or something like that, because there are rumors out there that Commander Cody could be returning, and that would just be interesting, and obviously due to the relationship between those characters. But not only that, Jedi hunters, I think most people would think instinctually that, oh, maybe we're going to see Inquisitors come into live-action Star Wars, because why not? We've seen them in the animated shows, so it's just like, oh, maybe we could actually see Obi-Wan face off maybe against some ex-Jedi who have then turned into Inquisitors. That would be really interesting. But on top of Ewan McGregor saying things like there's a hunger for this character to come back, the fans have been waiting long enough, he adds that he has this one task left, which is to keep Luke safe. But the interesting thing is, how can he really focus on that one task left if he's going to be in quite a bit of a situation in this series? Especially after what you hear about what I'm gonna say next. You could say that maybe this task to keep Luke safe is actually a part of the plot. Maybe there's somebody out there who, I don't know, somehow wants to report it to the Empire, and he's going on a little bit of a wild goose chase. That is complete off the top of my head speculation, but I would love to know your ideas on that. Ewan McGregor teases that we start on Tatooine and we go on a rollicking adventure. And whilst he teased things like this, and even the previous comments that I said, I should have already mentioned that there was concept art being shown in the background, and when he was saying that they go on a rollicking adventure, it was teased over a watery planet where armed soldiers fire upon a many armed sea creature. So this could very well mean that we see Obi-Wan Kenobi go back to Kamino for some reason. Now, yes and no, Kamino isn't the only watery planet in Star Wars. I'm just thinking of his connection to that planet, how he's been there before. This is post-Empire, where you do have some kind of clone troopers, but obviously they're moving into Stormtrooper period. Also, if you tie in the rumors of Tamara Morrison coming to the series as well, and you would have to think maybe he would play Commander Cody. I don't know. Obviously, that's speculation. I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments, but it could very well be the case that Obi-Wan doesn't actually remain on Tatooine, which actually would be very problematic if he is facing Vader in person. It does seem that he'll be going off to another planet, at least one other planet, but if that is the case, you would have to think he has some kind of backup plan. Maybe there's somebody he knows who watches over Luke. I don't know there. But this is the part of the video where we're getting into the Obi-Wan and Anakin details. So Deborah Chow goes on to say that we couldn't tell the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi without addressing Anakin or Vader. And this was actually articulated over a piece of concept art where we see Vader seated on a throne as he communicates with a hologram. Chow did confirm that audiences will, quote unquote, definitely see Obi-Wan and Darth Vader get into it again as we see the blue blade of a hooded Obi-Wan clash with the fiery red blade of Darth Vader, invoking the imagery of their previous encounter in Revenge of the Sith. Yet again, another piece of concept art, but that, you know, if that doesn't say something very interesting, then I don't know what else will. But I do understand how some or many Star Wars fans are thinking, well, that could just be like a dream sequence, right? Since they're quite connected in the Force. They both have pretty severe PTSD considering the events that took place in those final minutes of Revenge of the Sith. But adding even more fuel to the fire of what fans want to see here, Ewan McGregor goes on to say that having another swing at each other might be quite satisfying for everybody. We hope that you enjoy it as much as we're going to enjoy making it. Personally, with these extra details, this to me screams more than the initial fan speculation of Darth Vader only facing Obi-Wan in like a Force Nexus-y kind of dream. Similar to that of how, if any of you have read the Darth Vader comics, the canon comics, I'm trying to like say something like that. I think that's what most people expected. And lots of fans have had issues with this contradicting the canon of Episode 4, but there are technically some loopholes that they can jump through to make it work. So hear me out, and I would love to know what you think. So to begin with this part, we all know the quote by now. The circle is complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Except, if you really want to think about that quote and open up some loopholes here as to how this rematch could work in person in the Obi-Wan series, well, Obi-Wan left Anakin, not when I left you. Obi-Wan very clearly walked away and left Anakin on Mustafar. Just to reiterate one more time, the quote from Episode 4, A New Hope, Vader says, when I left you, I was but the learner. Yet, as we very well know, Obi-Wan walks away, leaving Anakin burning to a crisp, or should I say more accurately, he is titled Darth Vader in those scenes. So yes, with this, you could hypothetically say that they met again 10 years later, and this quote would add up with what Vader said in Episode 4, or could add up, which is very interesting to consider. And 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, yes, Darth Vader was insanely powerful, and I'm not going to deny that, and this is where you could argue from fan to fan, it's a bit reaching with what I'm about to say, but perhaps he felt or considered himself still the learner compared to a 10 years post-Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan Kenobi, also compared to when another 10 years later in Episode 4, he views himself the master out of both of them. And so thus the quote, the circle is now complete, when I left you, I was but the learner, but now I am the master. However though, to play devil's advocate or just both sides of the ballpark here, if they did fight again in person, not in a dream, going off what I'm now suggesting, if Vader did leave Obi-Wan again 10 years after Revenge of the Sith when this series takes place, and that goes according to his quote in Episode 4, when I left you, I was but the learner, why would he leave Obi-Wan? Like, why would he give him the opportunity to get away? That just doesn't make sense, right? Now, that is true. Like, he wouldn't let that happen, or he wouldn't let Obi-Wan live, especially if they met again in a fight after Revenge of the Sith. He would want... Oh my god, like, he hates Obi-Wan. He would love to get that sweet revenge for the events of the third movie. However, you could just say that Vader is forced to leave Obi-Wan because some kind of external danger is happening, like in a similar way to how Mustafar's facility was going completely out of control. I know that may be very convenient for some fans out there saying, oh yeah, that's just too easy, but if they wrote this very, very carefully, they could have them almost, well, they could see each other again, but due to some external factors, think the end of Rogue One as well, where the Rebels just got away, maybe something like that. And yet again, you could almost believe this, because why would he expect, after he loses the location of Obi-Wan in this series, why would he expect him to go to Tatooine? Like, he would be lost again for the next 10 years until they once again meet, have that fight in A New Hope, and Obi-Wan transpires into the Force. So with that logic, it could work. Now, I do get it is, yet even if there was some kind of external factor, it could be convenient, but I think I'm willing to let that kind of convenience go as long as it's written not terribly, like, oh, he just happens to get away. That I want some kind of thing where Vader is forcing himself to leave because it's impossible to kill Obi-Wan in that moment. I personally, as a Star Wars fan, am willing to let that go if it means getting the awesome battle that I think, you know, most fans would like to see. And given this kind of reasoning that I'm saying, I think it could work with the script that is literally canon. When I left you, I was but the learner. You didn't leave Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan left you, so there could be another way that this could happen in person. I would also be down for a Force Nexus-y kind of dream, but I do feel like they could make this work. Also, just to add more credibility to all of this, there is another quote from episode 4 which adds more ambiguity to it all, because don't forget, when Vader first, kind of senses Obi-Wan on the Death Star, he literally says, "I sense something, a presence I have not felt since ... Like, those ... could mean anything. Of course, fans up until literally this month thought that this meant I haven't felt this presence since Mustafar, when, like, Anakin was truly created into the more machine and man Darth Vader. But literally, they left the ... It could mean that I haven't seen him since 10 years ago, when we had that battle where he just literally got away. I do think there are some interesting theories out there that maybe there are other characters who can watch over Luke during this certain period of time, maybe Ahsoka. I have no idea, but I do think it is very interesting. And I actually, when using the word reaching, there are some things and theories out there where it's very reaching. One of them, I think, is kind of Mace Windu returning. I understand the logic of that in The Mandalorian, but I don't think that this is nearly as reaching as something like that. I mean, it literally works with the dialogue in the movies. Now, this still doesn't fix things like Obi-Wan saying, "Oh, now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time." But, like, that's actually much worse than even this coming to fruition. So I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. Those are the major details that we have learned since the original announcement that Hayden was coming back to the show. So I just wanted to chuck a bit of speculation, a bit of theory in there, and I'm dying to know if you would be on board with this. Other than that though, everyone, if you got to this part in the video, I'd really appreciate a like. I do plan on doing a lot more Star Wars content, so make sure you subscribe to the channel for updates on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. The Mandalorian, of course, I do review that, so make sure you check out my finale predictions video, and of course my Mandalorian finale review for season 2. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and may the Force be with you always.